and welcome to the Coffeyville City Commission meeting for Tuesday, September 26th. Tonight's invocation will be led by Dr. Dean McNamara of the First Baptist Church. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father, it's good to be with your people tonight. It is good to be, Lord, able to do the work of the city. Lord, I ask you to bless our commissioners, bless our city staff, bless all that work for the city of Coffeyville, bless all who reside here as well. Lord, may we always remember that the blessings literally come from above. You give us every good and perfect gift. Help us never to forget that. And help us to understand that we're good stewards of what you give us. Help us to be good stewards as well. Bless us now, Lord, in this meeting. Bless all that's said and done and spoken. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Tonight's consent agenda, City Commission meeting minutes for Tuesday, September 12, 2017, and 2017 appropriation ordinance number AO-17-18 in the amount of $4,601,442.85. Do we have any questions or amendments to these consent agenda items?
I have none.
Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve.
The consent agenda
Yes, the consent agenda.
as read.
Correct.
And I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion was made by Mayor Bauer and seconded by Commissioner Taylor to approve the consent agenda as presented. Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Mayor Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
New business, presentation by Johnson Controls and discussion on advanced metering infrastructure. City Manager Kendall Francis will make comments and introduce representatives from Johnson Controls.
Mayor and Commissioners, as you're aware, we've been, staff and I have been looking at some ways to utilize technology to read water and electric meters. And so we had started down the path of investigating different AMI or automated metering infrastructure options. And we were introduced to Johnson Controls, and they approach it in a kind of a unique way. They're here tonight to speak about their services, what they would offer to the city. Just kind of a brief overview, and then touch on not only the AMI systems, but a couple of other capital projects that we have already been looking at that we might be able to incorporate into this project, and specifically LED streetlights, and something that we've already have begun to budget for and plan for installation. But we have three representatives. Dave, are you gonna lead the discussion?
These guys will fill in, right?
Okay.
Now, go ahead.
No.
Well, I just wanted you to let the public know that the commission, along with staff, has already been through this.
Yes, we did have a work
So-
session maybe a month ago.
Right.
We started to talk about our different options, and at that time we had visited about Johnson Controls and their services, and how we believe, how we believe that they'd be beneficial to the city. And so I think David and his team are going to go into a little bit more detail.
Thank you.
About their services and the benefits.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks Kendall, and thanks to the commission and the city of Coffeyville for letting us speak. So, as Kendall said, we visited with him about AMI infrastructure, water meter replacement, that sort of thing, and it kind of got the conversation going about how we do business. Well, what we do through Johnson Controls, we're a performance contracting company, and basically what that amounts to is simply that that we use the money that's already in your budget. You're already allocated so much money for operation and energy, and in this case, water. So what we do is we just use the money that's already within your budget and reallocate it to make those capital improvements. In this case, it'd be water and AMI infrastructure improvements, street lights, as you had said, those sorts of things, building improvements, look at energy savings, and those the reduction in energy and the enhanced revenue through the water meters basically pay for the project without having to go back to get any additional capital, any capital out of budget, without having to raise the taxes to the taxpayers, those sorts of things. So that's basically, in a nutshell, performance contracting and what we do. The method we use is through the state of Kansas. It's a procurement method that's already been established by the state of Kansas for procurement for these types of projects, and that's, again, water infrastructure improvements, energy, those sorts of things. So through the FCIP program, our pre-approved companies, we happen to be one of them. So the procurement method has already been established through the state that our prices are set. The state of Kansas has already bid out these prices through procurement, so we're only allowed markups that the state of Kansas has already established. So that's the pricing structure we will use when we're looking at the project. But Johnson Controls in a whole has done well over 100 meter projects throughout the country, some of them here in the state of Kansas, but mostly, throughout the country. We've got well over 1 million meters in the ground, so we've done this once or twice. As far as the state of Kansas, again, through the procurement method, that we'll be looking at streetlights, we'll be looking at water meter infrastructure, AMI, the things that Kendall had explained. And again,
AMI is the automated meter reading
infrastructure.
infrastructure.
Yeah, there's
Yes.
there. Yeah.
You're correct.
Yep.
It's the technology that reads the meters.
Right.
And
So
that's the main core of this thing, correct?
Correct. And
you bet, that's a
and it
big,
is-
completely big chunk of it, absolutely, absolutely. And that allows you to gather data. So right now, you've got meter readers that are taking the meter reading. What the AMI infrastructure does, it automatically downloads that data to the city, to the billing system. All that is automated. So it automatically comes in without anybody having to drive by. Automatic meter reading, what you were talking about, there actually is a little bit of difference. Automatic meter reading,
They have to drive by.
AMR is a drive-by. That's exactly
We
right.
learned about that. I'm trying to tell the public through you're on TV.
Oh, great.
So, yeah, you're on TV and online so the whole city understands what's going on.
Oh, okay,
And what
absolutely.
was your first name again?
My name's Dave.
Dave, okay.
Yep,
Thanks,
yep.
Dave.
Well, if I'm on TV, I should have had Josh up here. He's a lot better looking.
Well, you are on our citywide TV thing, so everybody understands.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So AMI is automatic meter infrastructure, and you're exactly right. So there's antennas around that we have to do a propagation study to actually know where to set those antennas to draw that information from. All that will be part of the ongoing development of the project, if you will. So, but that's right. It automatically downloads that information to the city, and it's immediate, right? Craig, how often do they?
Typically, we go with daily reads of the meters.
Right. So every day you're going to have a read, and you can even get it more granular data than that. It depends on what you all want to do. So we also look at taking your billing system and making sure everything meshes. So we do a complete billing system download to make sure that everything, that's part of our development process as far as putting this together, is to make sure everything meshes together. So when Johnson Controls does a project, we look at it holistically, right? So in a sense, we're one throat to choke. So we take care of everything. We make sure everything goes together, we fit. We're manufacturer agnostic. We don't make any of those parts and pieces, but we've installed them all. No matter what type of meter you're looking at, no matter what type of AMI system you're looking at, we've put them all in the ground. So what we do, and help Kendall's team, is we'll put together a training session where quite honestly, we look at the good and bad of each one. It's your decision, the city's final decision, what type of system they would like to use. But we do training on the various systems that we use, again, all the good and bad, if you will. as far as what goes into it. But the final decision's on the city, right?
And you've talked to our utility people,
Yep,
just so they'll know.
yep.
And who was that? That was Bradshaw or
We-
Chuck or?
We've actually met with several of the staff.
Chuck and Jim.
Chuck.
Yep.
Chuck Shively, Jim Bradshaw.
And they've looked all
Gene
this over
Retzlaff,
pretty
Mike
good.
Shook, yes.
Right.
Stephanie Richardson was involved, and Chris Felix have all been involved in these initial steps.
And this is a big project. It's a lot of money, and that's why I'm saying, okay?
Yep, no, it is a big project, yep, absolutely. Which is why, you know, you want to be very careful and make sure it's done correct the first time, right? We don't leave any stone unturned when we do a project. One of the, you know, we're discussing the FCIP program, so that's, again, a state-backed program. Procurement's already been done through the state. We're limited on the amount of markup and fees and different things that we can charge. It's already set by the state, right? Generally through a through the FCIP program or a performance contract, the city would go out and sign a lease purchase agreement, and then whatever we did, whether it be energy or water meter efficiency, those sorts of things, like water meters, for example, since that's a main topic, the enhanced revenue that is off the meters pays for the project. And if you were to sign normally, if you were to sign a lease purchase project, if we say it's going to generate whatever that dollar amount, let's say $100 a year, and it only generated $50 a year, but your payment's $100 a year, we have to pay you that $50. We'll write you a check for $50. One of the differences that Johnson Controls makes, and that's still a what I call unconditional debt. It's a fixed fee that you would have to pay that lease company over however many years the term of the project is, right? Well, what we do differently, what we call contingent payment, we actually throw our wallet on the table. So we pay for that project up front, and you would only have to pay us on the amount that is actually generated, right? So if that same, for instance, if we say it's going to save $100 a year, and it only saves $50 a year, then you only write us a check for $50 a year. So it's not a fixed payment, it's conditional. Conditional if we actually come through. So basically what that does for the city of Coffeyville, takes all the risk off the city, right? So there's no taxpayers' funds going into it. We use our money, and we guarantee that it's going to make enough revenue or energy savings to pay for it, right? And that's a guarantee. If you don't, then you only pay us for the amount that we either generate or save or whatever the case may be through electricity savings. So that's kind of how our program works, and that's what makes us completely different, quite honestly, than most other people. We've done it so much, we're so confident in what we do, again, we're willing to put our money on the table. And that's a little unique well, not a little unique, we're the only one to do it, right? So it takes all the risk off. So it's not just a financial risk that's taken away, it's a construction risk, it's performance risk, it's all that risk is taken off the city and put back on us. So that's how we do our projects.
And I
I'm
don't-
talking a lot, so.
I don't know if it's your portion, but could you speak to the oversight that the state has?
Absolutely. Okay, no, that's a good point, Ken, and actually it's in my notes, but you're right. So when I'm talking about the FCIP program, the state agency, again, it's all approved by them, fees are set, that sort of thing. But another great thing that they do that Kendall's mentioned is they've got an engineering staff that reviews whatever we say it's going to save or generate. The FCIP program, state engineers actually review it. So you've got that double check to make sure it's actually doing what we say it's doing, right? So the burden of proof is actually on us to say, okay, we did generate that amount of money, here's our proof. Then it's checked by the state engineers to cover the city's backside, if you will. So yeah, very good point, Kendall. Thanks.
Okay.
Question, Jeff?
So, do you have somebody, like a reference, like a big person that's a big calling card that we can call and ask?
Yeah.
Who,
City, and we've given some to Kendall, but City of Olathe is a great one. It's right up the road. It was considerably larger project, but it's similar. I mean, we're doing the exact same things we're doing there, right? So, and Kendall's got that information. I give a few of them.
City of Salina was another one, and I visited with Jason Gage, their city manager, and he spoke very highly of the work that they did. It's not exactly what they're doing here for us, but just the processes that they went through, and they were very, just very pleased with the entirety of the project.
So when are we gonna vote on this, or?
Well, and this is just purely informational tonight.
Right.
Thank you.
Because there is a piece that they're gonna be talking about, the initial, he talked about the propagation study and some of the initial work that has to be done for them to determine
Right.
how much savings or extra revenue can be generated is there's still some field work that needs to be done. And I don't know, Josh, are you speaking to that point?
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Because there is, we need, if we move forward, we're going to need a commitment from the commission to possibly incur some expenditures. But Josh will explain that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm Josh Wilkins. So where we're at is, obviously, we're talking about conceptual stuff right now. What we would look for from you all, potentially at your next meeting, would be the approval to say, yes, we want to select JCI to go out and do what's called an investment grade audit. And that's all that is we would need to go through the city. We would be looking at your exterior and interior lighting, any HVAC needs that you may have in any city facilities. Obviously, the metering would be something we spend a lot of time on. And we'll be gathering that data to say, okay, and dealing with your staff to say, okay, these are the needs, whether it's in the city facilities themselves, or if it's outdoor, the decorative lighting downtown. We'll be looking at all of those things. And we'll be looking at finding what the costs are, as well as what the potential savings might be. So for instance, a lighting retrofit is gonna save X amount of dollars a year annually in electricity savings. The metering project will help levelize what you guys are actually charging in terms of what revenue you get and what costs are associated with it. We would bring back a list mainly to Kendall and his staff, and obviously for you guys to review. And what it would say is, for instance, and I'm just picking on the easy things, a lighting retrofit is going to cost this much and it's going to save this much. We'll bring back a list that you would look at and say, you know what, we want to pick those 6 particular items, those types of meters, this type of equipment, et cetera. We're not going to do these other projects right now because we don't want to see a project of that amount, or we want a return on investment of such and such. We'll have all of that to where it's pretty easy for you guys to pick and choose what you want. And that becomes the project that you then would contract with us to move forward. Like Dave was talking about, we're not coming to you asking, at that point, if you sign a contract, we're not asking you to go to your capital account or your bank account and write us a check. The intent is that, and let's say we did a $100 project for y'all, okay? We would actually do that work, and the savings associated with it, let's say we were gonna save you $10 a year, that would pay, we would do that work, we would not ask for a nickel from you. As you saw the $10 of savings accrue, then you would pay us that $10. If you save $12, you pay us 10 and you keep the 2, if that makes sense. So at no point do we ever intend to come to you and say, you need to write us a check for such and such. Now, part of what I'm sure Kendall would want us to talk about is with a metering project, we'll have to go and any meters that are 2 inches or below, we're gonna take a statistical sampling. We're going to pull, it's kind of a plug and play. We're going to pull those out. We're going to send it to an independent metering lab because we need to understand what level of accuracy those meters are. So we'll pull those out.
Not all of them.
No, it's just.
A few of them?
Yeah, I think we're looking at, what, about 100?
Up to 143,
Yeah, I think, and you guys have quite a few meters. So it gives us an interval of about 95% confidence if you go back to your statistics
Right.
class back in the day. So we'll just, a random sampling, because we want to know meters of all kinds. We'll send that off to an independent lab. That will give us the data we need to say, okay, your meters are operating at this efficiency. We'll, as a part of that testing process, we'll put new meters back in that your staff will have complete say over what type of meter, manufacturer, all of those things.
Right.
So that's during this development process. Let's say we get to November, and we've brought back a list, and it's got all of these things on there. And for whatever reason, you guys just say, you know what, we've had a change of heart, we don't want to look at any of this. Thanks for your time. What we would ask for is the cost associated with just purely the material, not labor or anything. The material of the meters that we'll put back in as part of this testing process. And we were doing calculations over the last week. That amount is $50,000. So, let me be clear though, because this is an extremely important part of this. At no point do I or Johnson Controls want you guys to write us a check. The intent would be is that you move forward with a project. The cost of the material of those meters that we're talking about becomes a part of the overall sell price to you, and therefore is paid off from the savings that you will realize.
Now, we just leave those in, or?
Yeah, that's why it's really important, is because the intent is that we're aiming for, we're going to have a project. So we need to be very specific with your staff to make sure that it's the meters that you want, the way you want it, because those aren't going away. The intent is we'll do the
Right, I
project, and
got
those
you.
things will stay put.
I have a question.
Yeah.
On your little scenario-based discussion a moment ago, you said that, basically you broke it down to simplicity, that if we were to do a $100 project with you guys and that project saves us, what was it, $10 a
$10,
year?
yeah.
A year. Well, and you said if it saved us 12, then we keep 2, we pay you the 10.
That's
What
right.
if it only saves us 6?
Pay us 6.
Okay, so you eat the rest.
That's right.
Okay.
There's a guarantee, and there's actually 2 guarantees in place. If I tell you it's gonna be a $100 project and it costs 101, that dollar is my problem, not yours. If I say it's gonna save $10 and it saves 6, you pay me 6, and I eat those $4, and I can't come back on you down the road and say, hey, I've saved you more in any subsequent year, give me the money back that I missed on in the
Okay.
first year.
Well, we went all through this in our meeting, and you guys have looked at the contract, right? And what he's talking about?
We've looked at the program. We have not seen a physical
Okay.
contract agreement between us and Johnson Controls, but we
So-
have reviewed the work that they do, and, you know, we're confident that this is the way we should move forward.
So we need to get a copy of that basic framework.
Yeah,
before
so the next step was,
Okay.
we provide a document called the investment grade audit. That's the
Okay.
first, it's a 2-step process. One is the IGA, and that's that study I was talking about, that if there's a walk away, it's the 50,000 for the material. We'll have that, we can have that turned around, we can have that to Kendall tomorrow.
I had some more questions.
Okay.
Probably the biggest question that I think the public is gonna ask is, will this prevent human error on meters, reading meters?
So since I'm on TV, I'm gonna be very careful with that answer.
'Kay.
It's going to eliminate.
It's also recorded.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, look, whether it's recorded or I'm not on TV or not, whatever we say in these meetings, people tend to they remember,
I
right?
understand.
And so I just want to be very clear about this answer. At least in the world that I occupy, we can never guarantee that there's not going to ever be any problem. Now, yeah.
This takes the human element out of it.
As much as humanly possible, we take the human element out because we're going to a smart infrastructure that uses technology to read and verify and quantify the amount of water that's being used. And you move away from having foot soldiers, so to speak, the meter readers that have to go out into the community and do that.
We
And-
make the meter manufacturers accountable to a 99%
Yeah.
accuracy on every read. So you have 99% of
That's
your
right.
meters reporting back every day.
Now, you said the word water.
And-
Does that
and
include
that's-
electricity?
Well, it does include
It does.
electricity. The reason that they focus on water is because that's where the revenue is really seen. Water meters lose efficiency. Electric meters typically don't lose efficiency
Right.
at the same rate that water meters would, so.
So your cost savings is actually most likely gonna generate from your readings of your water.
Cost savings is probably not quite an accurate word. And we'll be very upfront. People will probably actually see a little higher reading, dollar-wise on their water because we're going to have much more accurate meters in place throughout the entirety of the system than we do currently. And that's what, when they replace it and do that independent third-party study, that's what they're going to determine how accurate are our meters in general right now. The cost savings that we will see, operational savings, whether that's staff reductions, call-outs for rereads, things like that. Plus, as we start looking at the energy portion of this that Josh spoke to, LED streetlights are obviously a great savings in energy, whether we look at some HVAC, things like that. That's where you'll see recognized savings. So it's two. It's savings
it is.
and additional revenues.
Projects like this, when you think about the amount of energy your city facilities are using, you can probably target 20, maybe 25% reduction in overall energy usage, gas or electric expense associated with facilities like that. So that's where the hard dollar savings would come in.
So how much,
But this system will read both the electric and the water meters.
And this is actually kind of a issue that's unique, not the water portion, but the electric portion is kind of unique to Coffeyville because we run our own electric utility.
Right.
Yep.
And, you know, this is not just a system to read the meters. That's not the real, I mean, that's part of the reason we want to do this. But it's also the choice to go with an AMI system versus a drive-by is the data that we're going to be able to acquire. And a lot of that we talked about in our meeting as far as that plays on the distribution side, distribution management on the electric side.
And the difference between the two in layman's terms is one system you set behind a computer and it downloads from the house to the computer. And the other system is you have to drive up and down the streets
And it
with the.
downloads it to a computer in your vehicle, and then you take it back and download it into the main building system.
Okay.
Josh, one thing we didn't talk about when we had our workshop here a few weeks ago was how many, just so the public can know, and I don't think we talked about this, how many cities are doing this? I mean, you guys don't have that much of the market, doesn't sound like.
Well, actually, I think we're a market leader. We've got over 1 million meters in the ground. In the Midwest, this is just now starting to take hold. Places like Olathe, Colby, they're starting to get on board, and through utilizing the state program, like Dave is saying, that's the conduit that was needed. Because up until a few years ago, the procurement mechanism really wasn't in place to look at doing city
Well,
projects.
that should have been my second question, was you guys marketing. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
My guess, what percentage of cities, large, small, whatever, what percentage of cities are going to this versus what we're doing now? So the public will know.
I'm sorry, going to what versus what you're doing
Well,
now?
what we've got now going to this IAMI, this system.
I'm not going to give you a percentage. I would tell you that in most of the cities that we're talking to, they either have gone to this or they are seriously considering it and starting to weigh the benefit of it because it's the future. I mean, this is where people are wanting to go to eliminate the issues that we're talking about, which would be human error, as well as, I mean, look, I live in DeSoto, just up in Kansas City. The city just went to that, and what really drove that was more of citizens were saying, we need to know what's happening, why are we getting these bills, et cetera, et cetera. They went to a different technology because now it makes it much easier for their citizens to go in and say, oh, now I understand what my bill is, it's in real time. It's not a guesstimate, which frankly, that's what the city of DeSoto was doing for a long time. These are accurate amounts. So a long answer to your question, if they're not already migrating to this technology, they're digging into it to say, yeah, we think we need to go there. So I would say a majority.
And it's not just cities too. Large rural water districts like Water One up in Kansas City.
That's right.
That cover several square miles have utilized this technology for a long time. You're starting to see it more in the municipal side, on both sides.
I think why you're seeing what's taken so long up till now has just been the upfront capital cost, right? If you're gonna migrate a city of this size to that type of technology, that's not $10. That's a significant cost.
And that's where you guys come in.
And that's
right?
where, frankly, we're filling a role that the market
Right.
needed.
So what is the implementation timeline? I know it depends on the scope of the
Yeah.
project, but,
Yeah.
so so let's just take, if we did electric meters and water meters for Coffeyville, from concept where we're at right now to we're ready to flip everybody's on and we're ready to go, is it a 6-month, 3-month? And what's the involvement of the city employees? Are they the ones out doing the meter changes, or is it your group that goes out and does the meter changes?
Yeah, so, that's great, I'm glad you said that. So, from now, let's say in 2 weeks or whenever, I'm sorry, I don't remember
Every
when
2
your next
weeks,
meeting is. So in
basically,
2 weeks, you
twice a
guys come
month.
back and you say, hey, Josh wasn't completely bad, we want to move forward with JCI. We would start the audit right now. We would start doing that. The intent was that we would bring back the list or the project, we would start bringing back the list of projects to your staff probably in November, with the intent that we would come back and be requesting a contract amount, an agreement from you guys in the December timeframe. I think I saw you had a meeting on like December 12th. So that's what we'd be shooting for. Let's say you sign that contract. And if you did the majority of electric and water meters based on what I've seen in the city, you're probably looking at approximately 9 months for the construction to be done. So from now till December plus 9 months would be my answer.
Okay.
And, the city, we're not gonna burden your employees with doing that work. That's stuff that we'll do,
Okay.
pulling the meters and things like that.
You guys are installing the meters?
Correct. Either we'll install it or typically we'll subcontract that. A lot of times there's local subs that are more than capable of doing that type of work, and we try to use local subs wherever we can.
And that includes not only pulling the meters, but includes the infrastructure to do the link
Yes.
between the
Yeah.
parties.
Yeah, so it's a turnkey project. You have one contract straight to us. We can't really blame problems or issues on anybody else. We have to figure out a way to get it fixed. So we have all responsibility. All responsibility for cost and savings.
And the maintenance of them, say something happens and one of them goes bad, electric meter goes bad.
Yeah,
Is-
okay.
Does someone from your group come and replace it, or does that fall on our group then?
So typically, you'll have a year warranty, but
Right.
that's for material and stuff like that, and that would be for your staff to do the work.
Okay.
We can sign an agreement. I mean, I can do anything
Sure.
for the right amount of money, right?
Yeah.
But we
Yeah,
can't sign an agreement.
exactly.
We can sign an agreement where we would take care of those types of things. And we can, that's the kind of thing we'll detail out if you guys would want in terms of when we bring back the list to Kendall and them, and you guys pick and choose what you want.
Well, whatever you guys have done this, we're trying to wade through it and figure it out, so whatever makes sense, you know?
Yeah, I personally, I've only been around your staff a little bit. Your staff's capable, they could handle the replacement, I'm confident of, more cost effectively. But as
Right.
far as the project goes, I think, I'm encouraged by what I've seen. I think there's potential, and I think some customers you want to fire, frankly. I don't think that would be the case here. I think there's a nice mix.
Okay. Okay, well, we've had a pretty good overview. Anything else on this one?
So,
No, yeah, go ahead.
I know that technology is can sometimes be scary, especially for some of the older generations. You know, Chris talked about human error. What about if something were to happen in a glitch in the system or something ended up costing people money?
Yeah, so it was inaccurate,
Yeah.
and it overbilled somebody.
Yes.
Okay, well, if you had, so you're saying if someone didn't understand it and paid wrong, or you're saying the system itself actually
If
made
the
a
data
mistake?
was wrong and it said it owes a lot more than it actually did.
Well, then, if you'd help me walk through that, I would assume that, let's say that it overread a bill by $10 and someone paid you guys $10 and they disputed it or what have you. I mean, I would assume that you guys would call us and we would work through the technology piece with you to try to figure out what the problem would be. If it came back that it was a $10 overbill, in that case, and Kendall, correct me if I'm wrong, I would assume that the city would just, because you had collected 10 too much, that you would put the $10 back, but that it would be on us to make sure that that technology glitch
Right.
is not an ongoing problem.
Has that kind of thing happened? Have you had problems with accuracy or?
No, I mean, the way the way this technology is, and we, by the way, we send these meters to an independent lab. It's not a JCI lab. We try to stay away from the proprietary type thing. No, simple answer is no, that doesn't typically happen. But again, back to the human error piece, there's always potential for a glitch, but I can't think of a project where we've had that
Okay,
happen.
there you go.
So and maybe you answered this already, but,
Maybe not very well.
well, no, I think you did. I mean, I know we touched on it. We touched on how many communities, how many cities have this implemented. I guess maybe I'll take it one little step further. How many communities the size of Coffeyville, 9,500 people, have this implemented?
In Kansas, I really can't.
I didn't have to
Oh.
do Kansas.
You know, a lot of our customers are in the 9 to 16-ish thousand range. You get into a larger city like City of Kansas City, they've got tons of infrastructure in place and people that kind of take care of this thing
Right.
anyway. And then smaller cities, I'm from Ellsworth, central Kansas. In a town like Ellsworth, there's really not enough to generate enough cash flow in the project to pay for it.
Right.
So I would tell you between 9 and 15, 16,000 is kind of a sweet spot. So again, a majority would be in there. Now, we've signed larger deals at larger cities back east, but this is kind of where we think the market is for us.
Okay.
The other, in a couple of the places that you mentioned that you're talking to in Kansas have electric utilities. And the ones that have electric utilities are a little more able to fund some of those projects, even the smaller sized ones.
Yeah.
Beloit was an example. We installed an AMI system there, but you talked about where you came from Norton, Colby and those
Colby,
areas are
yeah.
looking for it. Those all have electric utilities.
Right.
And they're better able to fund some of these types of projects. So even the smaller cities are moving on board with that.
Okay.
So we appreciate your time. I know we kind of threw a lot at you tonight, but we'll get the IGA document to Kendall so he can start to review it. And it's actually not very thick, thankfully. And you guys can take a look at that and then ask us whatever questions you need, and then,
If we have the consensus, we'd like to put this on the agenda, on the next agenda for an action item.
I think we should.
Yeah, we had a workshop and we were all in agreement at that time, and I don't think anything's changed. You got something?
I have one last question. This document that you provided us, this one,
yeah.
with the map on there, these, I guess they're water drops?
Yeah.
On-
Those are locations.
Right, yeah. Are those cities that you've done strictly water projects or water, electric, or vice versa?
Typically, it's a combination.
Okay.
Yeah, but
All right.
they definitely have water as part of the scope.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
So in agreement that we'll put it on the
Yep.
next agenda?
I'm in agreement with that.
Yes.
Hey, thank you for your
Thank you
time.
thank you
Thank
for
you
your
guys for
time.
coming.
Appreciate it.
Safe travels.
Where'd you
Yes.
guys come from tonight? Okay. Thank you for coming to Coffeyville.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys be safe going home.
Moving on to ordinance number G-17-05, first reading of an ordinance to amend employee residency requirements for the city of Coffeyville. City Manager Kendall Francis will make comments.
Mayor, Commission, before you have the ordinance that we've been discussing for the last couple of meetings. We took your input from the last meeting, incorporated it into this document. States that will amend the current residency requirements, which is the 445 school district boundaries. It would now allow employees to live within the state of Kansas, a 25-mile distance from City Hall, with also the 40-minute response time caveat. Included in that is that department heads, and it spells out currently who for this document are considered department heads, and that they'll be allowed to live in the 445 school district.
Yep.
And then it also specifies that the city manager shall reside within the corporate city limits of Coffeyville.
Yep.
It says within 25 miles. Do we need to put radius, 25 miles / radius, or is that just good enough?
I think Paul was comfortable with the wording as is.
Okay. Well, I think it covers it. Somebody's gonna ask, okay? It's gonna come up. But,
And again, this does not allow city vehicles be taken to,
This doesn't speak to city vehicles. That will be handled with
but
an
that's a
internal.
that's
another policy.
That's a
That is-
policy.
That is a policy,
Right.
and in fact, we talked about it today at staff meeting, that will be we'll make sure that our take-home policy falls in line with this.
The
It's a- well,
wishes
it's
of-
another policy, so.
Yeah,
The-
but it's separate, it's not an ordinance, it's internal policy.
Right, right. And this is an ordinance.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Um,
Go ahead.
No, I don't, I mean, staff's looked it over. You just came up with this. We got it Friday to look at. Here it is. Is
But-
this a first reading?
It's a first
Yeah.
reading,
Right.
but it falls in line with the things
What
that
we
you,
agreed on last
you
meeting.
agreed to last time.
Right. This is
Right,
what, this is
right,
what we
right.
discussed
There you go.
on last meeting.
I'll make a motion for G1705.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Castler and seconded by Mayor Bauer to approve ordinance number G-17-05 for first reading. Commissioner Taylor.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Mayor Bauer.
Aye. Resolution number R-17-70, resolution to purchase lube oil from Ramsey Oil Company for the electric utility. Electric generation superintendent Tony Lawson will make comments.
Mayor, Commissioners, the purposes of this is to execute an agreement with Ramsey Oil for 6,500 gallons of the Shell oil for the engines at the new facility. The Shell Marcella engine oil is the original oil that was selected for these units and cannot be changed, not recommended by Wardzilla to be changed without draining and flushing the system. The Ramsey Oil Company is our Shell distributor in our area, so they were the only company to bid on this oil. Staff recommends the mayor be authorized to issue a purchase order to Ramsey Oil Company to supply 6,500 gallons of the Shell Marcella oil at a cost of $40,625. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Only thing that came to my mind when I saw this is, we really doesn't look like we have a choice, do we? I mean, they look like the only person out there, right?
Guess what? You're buying Ramsey oil
Right.
tonight, boys.
If this is what they tell us we have to use, and then I guess,
It's the oil that through the
Sure.
competitive bid and Wardzilla recommended.
I totally get it, but it just kind of felt like this is what you get.
Right, right.
When I was reading it, so. Any other questions?
Well, how much is that a quart anyway?
I don't have that right off the top of my head.
$1.56, I guess.
Is that all?
Good for you.
$1.56, and then you gotta flush it?
No. That's
You
only
said-
if
That's
you-
only if you have to change the oil?
If you change the oil, you have to drain and flush the whole system if you change brands of oil.
Oh, if you change brands?
Yes.
I see. Well, $1.56, that doesn't seem too bad.
No?
I mean, okay, well, let's move on.
We gotta vote on it first.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm saying, is there any more questions?
I don't have any.
Questions here?
Okay,
I move to approve resolution 17-70.
I'll second it.
Motion was made by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Commissioner Taylor to approve resolution number R-17-70 for adoption. Mayor Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Aye. Thanks for the math, Paul.
He must have thought that question was gonna come up.
Just curious.
Resolution number R-17-71, a resolution to execute a real estate sales contract with James F. Lindsay for the purchase of 1401 West 8th Street. City Manager Kendall Francis will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, as you're aware, we solicited RFPs for disposal, for lack of a better word, of our property at 1401 West 8th, which is the current location of our customer service facility. Due to the fact of City Hall remodel and that department moving back to City Hall, we will no longer have a need for this property after the first of the year. We received 2 RFPs, and after evaluating them, staff recommends that we move forward and accept the proposal from Mr. Lindsay, and the who has offered to purchase the property for $43,000.
Yeah, do you remember what we paid for it, or, you know?
I would have to ask staff
Was
as
it-
to that total.
It was like 68,000. 60, less than 70, but more than 60, off the top of my head. Is there anyone here that wants to discuss this issue?
You mean you're talking to the public, or?
Yes.
Okay. Doesn't look like it.
Okay, here's my question. When we started the discovery process of what to do with this building, walk us through the steps of how that came about, how we got to this point.
You're talking to staff, right,
I'm
Kendall?
talking to Kendall.
Right.
I guess, I don't know that we had really any steps. We started, I did reach out to a local business who had been interested in the building, apparently when we purchased it. And then Mr. Lindsay contacted us through a local realtor. He had a family history with this property and was pretty passionate about trying to purchase it, and came, you know, he lives in California, he came and looked at the property, and made an offer on the property, but then we just due diligence, I told him it needed a roof, and that he needed to investigate that before he offered the kind of money that he was talking about. Had some other negotiations with the another, like I said, another business here in town, and but when we got down to it, then we decided that, I guess, to make it fair and make certain that everyone had an opportunity to purchase the facility, we chose to put it out for RFP. So we put it out for, Cindy, you'd have to jog my memory, 3 weeks, probably? Advertised for RFPs for about 3 weeks.
When the you said we reached out to a company who had interest in it.
Yeah, I was made aware that when we purchased it, I believe we purchased it at an auction, there was another local business who also apparently had interest at that time.
Okay. Was that business ever, was there any discussions with that business in reference to possibly giving them the building?
I did tell them that that would be my recommendation to you.
Okay, and then we told them that our recommendation would be to give them that building, and then we in turn turned around and then decided to sell it, right? And what I'm getting at is I think there's probably some hard feelings from this other, because they were initially approached with saying that we're gonna give it to you, and then.
Well, I have no authority to give anybody anything.
Okay. First of all, I wasn't done.
Okay.
And I think that was kind of their impression, is that they were gonna be given the building, but they were contacted and said, hey, you need to come down here and take a look at this thing because it needs a roof, because the roof's falling off of it. And then they came down and looked at it and said, yeah, we'd be interested in give to us, and we'd be willing to replace the roof. Is that?
That's. I
Is
did
that
tell them
accurate?
Yeah, that my recommendation, because we knew that the cost of fixing the roof, based on the roof we repaired at the recreation building, was approximately $50,000. Roughly the same square footage and flat roof. We told them that we estimate the price to be about $50,000 to replace the entirety of that roof. And for the city to do it, didn't seem feasible for us to fix the roof and then try to sell it. And honestly, I'll just say I didn't believe it had value as it sat there like it is right now, much value. My recommendation would have been to you to donate the building if they were going to put a viable business in it, but they were gonna have to stand the cost of $50,000 approximately to fix the roof.
And I'm not in the business of giving stuff away. And obviously, it makes more sense to sell a building that we own for $40-some thousand than to give it away. But I also want to make sure that there's no hard feelings with this business, and that they don't feel like the rug was pulled out from underneath them.
And I guess I would hope that they didn't. I had conversations with them when I told them that we were gonna put it out for RFP. Thought they,
So let's go to the next questions that I have.
Well, are you on the same topic?
This building. No, I'm done with that
the
portion of it.
building?
No, I just like to ask my questions.
Okay, that's fine. I want to talk on this building thing too, but go ahead. And that's what we're on, so go ahead, Chris.
The other thing is that this gentleman's from California. Don't mean to offend no folks from California, but there's a lot of buildings in Coffeyville that are owned by folks in California that are sitting here in disarray. What guarantee do we have that if we sell this building to some folks from California, that it's not going to be like the other buildings that are owned in this city or this community by folks from California? Because the last thing and from what I'm understanding, according to the information that we were provided, is that his intent is to do a whole bunch of work to this building, and then turn around and try to lease it or rent it.
correct.
What guarantee do we have that that's going to happen? Because once we relinquish control of this building, he doesn't have to do anything to
Well,
it.
I think, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can write into the sale documents some of those stipulations.
And then what do we do if he says not going to do it?
Well, it.
We have to
the
take
sale,
him, we have to go to litigation, right?
Well, I mean, I suppose you could put in reversionary provisions in the deed that say if you don't do what you said you would do in your request, in your proposal, that the building comes back. I don't know that we want the building back, but, that would be an option, I suppose.
My question is, and I really hope this gentleman does what he said he's gonna do, but in past experiences with buildings, I mean, we got a lot of buildings sitting around that are empty from people that own them out of state. And I'm scared that if we relinquish control of this property to someone who may or may not utilize it as they say they're going to, that we're just going to end up with another empty building in Coffeyville. Let me finish, please. The other thing is I think that on the flip side of that coin, we have a local entity that was interested in it and even offered to purchase it, that is probably more inclined to renovate or at least maintain the building, because they've been established in Coffeyville for the last, I don't know the specific number, but as long as I can remember. So I'm scared on this deal.
Well, I can tell you, in price wasn't the only factor that went into our decision. I did consider the fact that we have a local company who needs a larger place for their business. Yes, it's not as much money, but they are offering to purchase it. How much does that factor against the difference in price? There's about $18,000 difference between the two bids. I'll be honest, I'd be willing to take the second highest bid in favor of a local company, but the 18,000 was a pretty, if it was 5,000, I wouldn't even have thought about recommending an out-of-town person. 18,000 made me a little hesitant.
I have one other question, then I'll concede my time.
Yield.
I'll yield my time, thank you. This building was up for public auction when we bought it. Did Mr. Lindsay bid on, or did he bid on this building at that time?
I would say no.
So he had the opportunity to purchase this in the past.
If he even knew about it.
Yeah, I can't speak that. He did not indicate that he had ever tried to purchase the building.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Well, you know, this whole thing is, I mean, I didn't know about it. We came to the last meeting. And we had an offer. What did we do? Ask you to do something, Kendall?
We chose not to follow through, and we put it out for RFP, so everyone had an opportunity.
And how did that, I didn't know that went out. I should have maybe, but I didn't.
It went out almost immediately.
And how'd that go out?
Our normal procedures as far as making that. But then the two people that I knew were interested, I sent them directly the information.
And that was these two?
Correct.
You know, I wish between the first time and the second time, wish we'd had a chance to talk about it a little bit here, how we're gonna do this. I don't think the property's worth the whole lot. I think you got a pretty good offer on it.
We got an offer that was substantially more than I anticipated ever getting, I'll be honest.
Well, I think the property is worth about what we paid for it, which would be about 75 or whatever it was.
If it had an intact roof that didn't leak buckets, I would agree.
Yeah.
But as its current state,
Okay.
I don't believe it has that type of value. If the city holds on to it, we will have to fix the roof
Right.
because there won't be anyone there to be able to look after it.
And we're gonna stay there till we get a new building built, and then this guy takes over.
Correct.
What do you plan on doing with it?
He wants to fix it up, renovate it,
Yeah.
and rent it out as office space. And he has, on some other pieces of the property, has indicated a desire to put a monument to his family. His family has a history here in Coffeyville, and just other things that he has sent me, some other proposals. He was gonna replace the sign that was there. There was apparently an electronic sign. or something.
Do we have to do something on this tonight?
We don't have to, no. You know, and if we're, you know, if you're in favor of supporting a local entity, a known commodity, and accepting their bid, I would be.
No, honestly, that's the direction I'm leaning,
Well,
for a couple of reasons.
Miss Steele, you're back there shaking your head, and is there something you'd like to say?
Be on the agenda, but I do know the person in California. I've had extensive conversations with him. However, and I do believe his, because his mother died and was from here, he's using that money to buy the building. But I think your point is very valid, and I guess had I known, I would have prepared better. But I really think the commission has got to put some kind of item in place that whenever you sell a building like that, there's a performance contract. And if those people who own that building do not perform, like with Brown's Furniture, you know, we can go through the litany, within a certain period of time, that building is turned back or sent to auction. And I mean, I think that needs to be a standard that's set for any public building you sell from here on out, if we're gonna turn this down around.
And I agree with that, and perhaps you should come up here, because nobody, I know you, you don't have to, you don't have
You know, you're
to.
selling a
Right.
building, you're selling it, okay?
Right. The thing
We
is,
want some provision, I mean,
the thing is on this building, we can put provisions, but those other buildings that I mentioned earlier, those were not government-owned buildings. Those were buildings that are owned by private folks, and when they sell them, they can do whatever they want to with them. So the thing is I agree that there should be some provisions on there to keep from, if we are to go down this route, to keep that building from falling in disarray. like the rest of these buildings have that have been sold by private entities. And like I said earlier, this is not because I don't want to sell to someone from California. I just don't want to sell something that I'm just scared. Because I'm afraid that this building that we own now, and obviously it's not the, it's not a historic type building or anything, but still it's a building that could very easily, once we relinquish control of it, become another vacant structure here in Coffeyville. And we've already got plenty of those. We don't need any more.
And that's a pretty busy intersection right there.
Right.
You know, I mean, people coming in and out of town, going to the high school, events, you know, you drive right past there.
I think we need to slam, stop, look, analyze, manage, whatever you want to call it. I didn't know about it and, find out about it, Friday or whatever. I think there needs to be a little more communication about all these pieces of property we sell.
And I think you said that you had something that you may want to present to the commission that may persuade us to go that direction. But and Jim, I agree with you.
I mean, maybe we told you to go ahead and do something, Ken. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe we said, go do something. But I thought we should have got a little bit of a plan together and then got back with us at another meeting and then move forward. I mean, I think we should have spent a little time talking about it.
So,
Looking at the options, both of them. I understand where you came from. This is considerably higher than the original offer from.
I don't
the
think
other
that's a
offer.
bad offer. Do we want to do it? I don't know about this monument thing. I don't know what's going on there.
I'd like to get more information about that. I want to know what's going on. I don't mind tabling it. My question is, when we sell this property, where does that money go? Can it go towards the coffer for maintenance for city buildings, or where can it go?
I suppose it can go probably anywhere you designate it for to go.
This Mr. Jim, go ahead. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'd like it to go towards, since it was a city building, I'd like to see it go towards a maintenance fund to make sure we uphold those municipal properties, so we don't have, for like, say 50 years down the road, I don't want to see the same state. So I would like it to see go into the coffer of maintenance fund myself.
When I spoke to Mr. Lindsay about this contract, he apparently is coming this way for the Dalton reenactment deal and is supposed to be performing. I guess he's a singer, so that may be an opportunity for you to meet him face to face and get to know him a little bit.
I thought that was.
I don't know that we don't want to sell it. We're making kind of a quick decision. If he's a serious buyer, he's going to be here for a couple of weeks or a month, and we can figure out what's going on here. I don't know enough about real estate. I mean, I know quite a bit about real estate, but I don't know that we've done the normal procedure here. Paul, what do you think about that?
Well, I think I've seen properties that were just sold to a single buyer. The city did go to the effort of putting out an RFP, and as Kendall said, leaving $18,000 on the table that's pretty significant.
Right, I agree with that. I'd like to know more about this monument deal. I'd like to know what you plan on doing with it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, this thing hit me kind of quick, and usually you have a little time to think about it. And, we haven't had much, and I didn't really know I think we ought to talk about what our plan is a little bit. Maybe send something to the commissioners and we talk about it, and talk about it at the meeting, whatever, but,
Well, I think that if Mr. Lindsay is interested in the building, I think that he probably wouldn't, and I can't speak for the man, but I think that if he's truly interested in it, I think that he wouldn't mind waiting until we have a little time to investigate this. And therefore, I'm going to make a motion that we table resolution number 17-71.
I'll second.
And do you have to?
It needs to come back at the next meeting or a designated.
It'll come up the next meeting,
Next meeting.
and if we need to
Take it off.
table it longer, can we take it up at that time? Okay.
Motion was made by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Mayor Bauer. Was that second correct?
Yes.
No? To table resolution number R-17-71. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Mayor Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor.
Resolution number R-17-72, a resolution to approve a loan application for Baroness Properties for 1121 West 9th Street. City Manager Kendall Francis will make comments.
Mayor and Commissioners, before you is a resolution to approve a loan application for Baroness Properties. It is part of the Distressed Property Reinvestment Program. And, of course, I know you're familiar with Baroness Properties. Back in February, we executed the similar thing with it's Peggy Steele operating as Baroness Properties for 4 properties on 9th Street for rehabilitation of 4 homes. 3 of those have been completed. The 4th one is scheduled to be completed in October. We've basically just she has chosen to purchase 1 more property that is adjacent to one of the current properties and will be rehabbing that as she has the other 4.
And that's what this 40's for?
This is what that 40's for. Now, she has substantial investment of her own money in all of these rehabs, but in this one as well. She qualifies as per the terms of the program, and obviously we've had 4 test cases. It's been, she's done everything she said that she would do. I would recommend that we go forward with just one more of these.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with it. How much money's left in that fund?
I'll be honest, I didn't get the balance, and I was gonna ask Stephanie today, and she was going to train.
She's right there.
But I'm sure she probably doesn't, unless she's just. Yeah,
I think there was like 120
Yeah, I can't remember.
left or something.
Right.
And I should have dug, and I just ran out of time.
Any questions? No. I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R-17-72 for adoption.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Mayor Bauer and seconded by Commissioner Castler to approve resolution number R-17-72 for adoption. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor. Mayor Bauer.
Aye. Resolution number R-17-73, a resolution to approve change order number 2 for the Acme Foundry Street Improvement Project. Engineering Superintendent Thomas Osborne will make comments.
Good evening, Mayor Commissioners. This is change order number 2 for the Acme Foundry Street Improvement Project. That was a $1 million economic development grant, where all the funds came for said improvement. This is on the 15th and Willow intersection. What happened was when we replaced the water line to remove it from underneath the street so that in the future we're not digging up the street for any type of repairs. There ended up being about a 1 foot to 2 foot strip of asphalt between where we capped the street crossing and where we had stopped the intersection. So with that smaller space, you're going to start, that asphalt's not going to hold up there. So the decision was decided to go ahead and extend that out, get the curb radius and cover that up to create a better intersection for now and for the future. There was also a driveway that was to be put in according to the plans that doesn't exist now, and that was not what the plan or what the project was for. What had happened was on the survey, they showed a driveway, but it was just a curb broken out bad. So we took that out. It ended up being about just shy of $3,000 increase for that intersection to go ahead and do that extra work. But I think all that is grant funds. Still working on that same $1 million grant. So,
Okay.
if you have to answer any questions.
I don't have any questions.
So this is all out, just make sure I heard you right. This is all out of the grant funding that we got from the state of Kansas?
That's correct.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
No questions.
Okay. So
Move to approve 17-73.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Commissioner Castler to approve resolution number R-17-73 for adoption. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor. Mayor Bauer.
Aye.
Commissioner Castler.
Aye.
Thank you. I was asked to take a 5-minute break at this time. So make a motion to take a 5-minute break.
Second.
Mayor and Commissioners, at our last meeting that you asked that we would come forward tonight and Is this better? Okay. At our last meeting, you asked that we'd come forward tonight and bring up the topic of, you said rental standards, and so I guess that's what we're doing. In all honesty, I have probably more questions right now than I really have answers. I guess to start this off, is that currently we have minimum housing standards in our ordinance. Is that what we're wanting to focus on, or are we targeting specifically rental standards?
I think it was specifically rental standards, correct?
That's
It wasn't
correct.
blight houses or anything like that. This
Okay.
was just rental standards.
All right,
In living, yes,
so minimum housing standards for rentals.
that's correct.
That's
Okay. Okay, well, that's the first area that we need to
Yep.
make sure we're clear on. I have, I can just tell you, since that time, I've reached out to several other cities to see who has done what has worked, what hasn't. I've been gathering information just so that we have something to go on. Many of them suggested we look at the International Property Maintenance Code, which we have done and started to read through. I've contacted, even late today, I contacted the City of Independence, who has rental standards in their codes, and Paul and I were just discussing just a little bit about it. We're just trying to digest, where it originated, to what level of standards are they being held, who's doing the investigation, all those things. And so that's part of the discussion that I'm assuming we're going to have or going to start having tonight.
Yes, I believe that is correct.
My first question was gonna be who's got them and what are some examples?
And I can't spit them off the top of my head. Let me see here, I might be able to call them out of my email. Many cities have minimum housing standards, which again is something that we already have. I'll be honest, some have tried to approach rental standards and have been rebuffed and weren't willing to take the fight on. I guess it's probably the easiest way to say that.
But you said that Independence does have rental standards?
They do. I spoke with their assistant today, and she sent me the link to their codes. I mean, their codes are organized such as ours, so you can easily go in there and search them and look through what they are. But as Paul and I were discussing, what standards they're based on, I don't know that we're wanting to base ours on the same standards that they would. I would think probably, and I guess we just need some direction on how you want us to approach this.
Well, in my opinion, the thing is that this is a discussion, and there's really not anything to discuss if we don't have any information and on, basically, let me try to word this properly. There's no need to go out and try to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Some folks, there's folks that have done this all over the country. So the thing is that for us to try to start from scratch and have a discussion on what we need in it and not, we just need some examples of what other folks do. And when I say folks, I mean communities. And a perfect example, and I'm not saying, like you said, we don't need to base ours off of what Independence does, but the thing is that we're kind of in close proximity, so it's not like that we have to base them solely off of that, but that would be a kind of a pretty easy place to start if we wanted to discuss it.
Yeah, many of the cities that I heard responses from reference the International Property Maintenance Code. And they've used that as kind of their baseline to start building their rental standards around. I don't believe that is what Independence uses. They believe it's the Section 8 housing, Section 8 of the U.S. Housing Act of 1937. So the standards are probably a little bit different. But, you know, we need to talk about enforcement, those types of things, some of the consequences that are involved with this, some of the mechanics of how it would work. But you're right, there are examples out there that we could absolutely cut and paste if that's what you chose to do.
So
But-
can we get some of those samples sent our way, or?
And absolutely, I mean,
Yep.
can do, and, and we do have that as well. This same subject was brought up 4 or 5 years ago here in Coffeyville, and there was quite a bit of work done on staff part at that time.
Well, we have this one, I'd like to speak for a minute if I can.
Absolutely.
This is ours right here, right? It says Coffeyville on it. Code of Ordinance, Coffeyville, Kansas,
It's what you sent us,
Municipal Code
Paul.
Library.
Yeah, it's,
That's ours now.
That's what are you talking about the document that I sent, the
Yes.
minimum standards for
Yes.
housing and rent and premises? Yeah, that is on the books right now.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
Okay, that's what we have now.
that's correct.
Okay. What's wrong with what we have now, Chris?
Well, I think that what we have now concerns more of falling down structures, and what we're going to discuss is going to be standards for rental properties that you would meet minimum standards for housing, such as having a floor in your, does it say anything about having a floor in your house that you rent for profit?
I don't know, I haven't really looked at it. I mean,
That-
I'm not
thing-
having,
Things
you know.
of that nature, things that, you know, and the thing is I think that there was this big, I mean, I wasn't here 5 years ago when this went down, this discussion, but evidently there was some pretty big pushback from some folks. And my thought is that you know, maybe I'm wrong, but we have minimum conditions for dogs in the city. You have to provide them with certain conditions for a dog to live. We have certain conditions for animals to live, and I'm not like a big government guy, but if you're going to rent a house in the city of Coffeyville for profit, you should at least have a piece of property that a human being can live in, because
okay, so here, I'm with you, we need a nice property for everybody living. Okay, have you guys worked with this, Paul, this document? I mean, I've looked through it, and I haven't read it word for word, but it's Section 8, 208, Section 9. Have you guys looked at that, Kendall and Paul and city staff?
I printed it off and highlighted some things that I thought we might talk about tonight if you wanted to. And that's the question that I'm having is, when we are trying to address rental properties, we do have these provisions in here that apply to all houses. They are to have adequate flooring, for
Right.
sure. Every dwelling and every part thereof shall be maintained in good repair by the owner or the agent and be fit for human habitation. That's one of the,
Right.
statements in here. This is not specific to rental properties, but I guess our question is really more about what is it, what is the commission looking for that's going to be specific to rental properties as opposed to?
I would like to see an example from another community that has rental standards,
Okay,
okay? And then we can discuss that document
Yeah.
versus what we have.
in looking at
Or just a
Independence,
housing
ju-
document.
and I haven't really analyze Independence, but just kind of glancing through it, you see some of the same kind of stuff as we have in our minimum
Right.
housing code. They do have a licensing process, I think an inspection process, a complaint process, and an inventory type checkoff. So we can certainly do that. I'm just curious what, where we're trying to go, because we do have some laws already on the books that can address situations where you've got deplorable living conditions. The city
Well-
just needs to be,
Well, just not
Yes.
deplorable city living, it's they're charging an arm and a leg to live in that.
well,
You're trying to mess with, I don't quite get the problem here. I really don't.
Well,
I don't get the problem. I'd like to see the problem. I'd like to see it. I'd like to know what it is. You're charging too much, that's,
that's supply and demand.
that we had control of that. You're talking about some
We
housing.
can
I'd
cut
like
this
to
off.
see the
We had
problem. This
housing
came up
problem.
2 weeks ago. Want to see some, and I'm like Paul, I'd like to know what the problem is so we can get it on the table and move forward. I mean, I don't know what it is.
well, I think,
I'd like to
I
know.
think giving you some examples from
Right.
other cities is a good starting point. And we're just kind of starting the dialogue, and Kendall and I have talked about it a little bit, so.
Well, my question is of logistics. I want to know from you, what do you feel that if we put this in place, what employees are going to be in charge of it? How, do we need extra stuff like that?
How do you regulate it?
How you regulate it, the whole thing?
Regulate
Because
it,
right
yeah.
now, I don't think we're set up to
Rental
do it right
properties.
now.
In general.
I'm curious how many complaints Independence has filed on their rental standards, how that has impacted their city.
Oh, that's a good
something
question.
else for us
So
to ask
can we
about
get
as
that
well.
information as well?
Yep.
And the checkoff list that
Yeah.
you referenced to, how do they go about that?
Yeah, I think
And
that-
who does that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Those are all good questions. I think probably when somebody wants to register their rental property, then somebody on the city staff would go out and do the inventory, make sure it's suitable.
Well, I think just health and safety of the tenants that are in those houses. I know that's not necessarily I guess in a sense it is our responsibility to ensure that the safety of those tenants is there. Busted out windows, leaking roofs, no floors, things.
No plumbing?
No plumbing.
No walls?
No heat and air.
No
Right.
ceiling?
Those are all minimum living requirements for us to live in our homes.
And they're right here. They're covered.
Some are, not all.
Now, and
Well, he read
part
one
of,
that I
part
thought
of that
covered
is,
all of it.
part of that is what you base it on. I mean, like I said, Independence, just for example, bases theirs on the Section 8 housing. Those standards may not be the same as what is in the International Property Maintenance Code.
Right.
So it will, if you were to look at it, it will break down heating and air or ventilation. And it'll tell you what is the very minimum and all those things for
Right.
that. Then it'll look at electrical wiring and it'll just start going down those subcategories. And the same is true probably with Section 8 codes, but they may not be to that
Defined.
level that you would want them to be.
Right.
And the thing is the purpose of this is not to try to, this is an exploratory discussion.
Sure.
And, like Jim said, he doesn't know what the problem is. Well, perhaps there needs to be some examples of the problems here in town. Because I can give you, I can tell you some of the places that I've been in, and it hasn't been pleasant, and they've been rentals. And I'm telling you right now,
Well, then
there's kids that live here.
a public officer needs to go look at them, right?
Well,
Well, they have no authority to.
Public officers also involved.
Do they have any authority to
we
under
do have a
this?
mechanism in place that if we were to receive 3 complaints, then that would authorize our public officer to do an investigation
that?
into those things. Huh?
Public officer as in
Our code enforcement
code
officer.
enforcement.
And then if we were, if we found to be, below standard, we could placard it, and it would be uninhabitable until those repairs were made. So, you could be putting someone out of a home, and, I mean, so we're gonna have to have a mechanism in place to deal with that, or what's gonna happen.
Right.
Those are all part of it. But that exists right now, that could occur right now, sure.
I'd like to have those examples, please. And the checklist, I think that would be also a good thing to look at.
I'll have an opportunity to visit with City Independence since they're close, and just be able to sit down and look at it. A little bit to Commissioner Castler's questions. I can tell you we absolutely are not staffed to do that currently.
Right.
We have one code enforcement officer, and it's a full-time plus job. So we have not budgeted for that position for next year. So, I mean, there are some things that we'll need to look at too, but do you simply just want the examples, or do you want us to begin to craft some things?
We just want to look at them at this point.
Okay.
That's all I want to do.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
And the thing is that maybe that we need to discuss this further, or it may be that we don't do anything. It's
Okay.
just that we're requesting information.
All right. What, between now and the next time, what kind of deliverables would you want? You want the examples that I've received so far. We talked about some checklists and things like that. Do you have other questions that maybe we need to be thinking about and determining some answers to give you more information?
I don't think that this is anything that, we can delve off into in a 2-week period. I think that, from my perspective, I think that I wanted to look at those examples. I wanted to look at the international
Property maintenance code?
property maintenance
Okay.
code, and I think that,
Probably Google that if you wanted to, couldn't you?
And I have a link to one, we kind of did that, but I'll send you the link to one we have.
and then what other cities in southeast Kansas do, or perhaps in other parts of the state. We talked about Olathe earlier. They're like on the top 11, let's see, ranked at number 11 in the 100 best cities to live in the United States. What do they do?
Okay. Just a quick look. I know I got a response from Pittsburgh. And I believe Frontenac. Yeah, so I mean, we have some Southeast Kansas examples that I can share with you.
Yeah, I think if you can just summarize some of those for us and
And
give some examples.
like I said, I just don't want to pigeonhole ourselves down into southeast Kansas.
Sure. No,
either,
I-
because,
and
yes,
I'm-
ma'am, did you want to speak on this?
Yeah, you gotta
Absolutely.
come forward though. Peggy, I had a complaint called in, just so you'll know, not just picking on you, so the public will know. You gotta come forward. I got a text a minute ago from someone that listens every week, and he sure wants us to come forward, so
Okay.
they can hear out there in the public. Thank you, Peggy.
I sent this letter to each one of you. I don't know if you had a chance to read it or not, but after spending 10 months in the streets of our beloved town, working with a cross-section of citizens from the homeless to the aristocracy and everyone in between, I have grave concerns about an issue that's not being addressed by the city. We have people renting dwellings for a significant amount of rent compared to their income and value of the home. Most of these dwellings are often poorly maintained, and they should be condemned. Often the tenants fear their landlords/slumlords, some of whom collect the rent wearing a loaded pistol on their hip. The list of issues I'm aware of, just in my neighborhood, include lack of heating, lack of workable plumbing, broken windows and doors, vermin infestations, crumbling foundations, holes in floors open to the dirt, leaky roofs, garages, and sheds that house transients, faulty gas heaters, exposed and faulty wiring. One example, Slumlord A. Purchased a dwelling for $6,000 6 years ago, has made no improvements. The monthly rent paid by the people living there, $400 a month. They pay all utilities and they care for their own lawn. Assuming he pays for insurance and taxes of $800 annually, the slumlord makes an annualized return on his investment of 67% a year. He's made no improvements, even though he's been asked. The people renting from him fear him. They fear they will be put out if they complain. This is happening throughout Coffeyville. These people are rewarded by not improving property by the city and county since taxes are kept lower due to no improvements. The city needs to have an inspection process that immediately notifies slumlords of infractions that must be fixed and repaired within 30 days and inspected, or significant fines will be levied against the property. If there's no budget for having that inspection, we need to have a trained citizen task force to take this on for a designated period of time and get it fixed. And this has been done in best practices in small rural communities throughout the U.S. very successfully. So you Google it, there's research, I'd be happy to help in any way. It's a real problem. I'd like to see the commission do something about it.
Okay.
Thank you,
Well,
Peggy.
Peggy sheds a little light on this thing, and we need to just figure out what the problems are. She brought some, I haven't seen any properties that bad. Have we seen any, the city staff, have we seen any, or, she obviously has seen it. Okay, and maybe you've seen some. Careful.
We have
Yes.
I haven't, okay?
We have it. We have it. It's around town.
Okay, well, we need to,
I'd invite you to my neighborhood, I'll show you some, Jim.
well, you gotta stand up here and talk, Peggy, so they can hear you. I'm sure they're out here now that we've had a little light shed on it, so we need to figure out what we're gonna do about it and think about it a little bit. You know? And it looks like an inspection process, and we need to prepare for it. There's gonna be some cost inspections, and there's some questions to answer. What are the people gonna do that are in them? And who are we gonna have do it, and so on and so forth. So you're wanting to move forward with this.
Well, I
and-
think we're in reviewing the processes, yeah, and setting the rules for these things.
Okay,
The
there you
minimum.
go. That's what we wanna do.
The expectations.
That's what we wanna do, Kendall. I don't know what all that involves. We've got time. This thing's been brewing for years, and I guess, supposedly. So we have a little time here. We probably ought to see what other cities do with this thing. You know?
Right.
I know if you go to Tulsa and live, you're gonna pay, 6, 7, 8, 100,000, 1,200, 1,500, 2,000, whatever. This is Coffeyville. It's $400 a month, okay? We need to look at the standards and look and see what we can afford as our city, and then how we're gonna manage it. So, I'm not saying it's not an issue. It's a little bit news to me. I know there's a house right down there behind Egbert's that one of the guys that rents houses is fixing up. He's been working on it for a year or two. I got property on both sides of it. I've been watching it. Looks okay to me. Maybe there's a house over here that has the cockroaches and stuff. I don't know. Let's dig into it. Let's see what we got to do here. But obviously, we're going to have an inspector. We're going to have to look at this document. And I guess when somebody rents one and fixes one up, do we go in and look at it?
I think that would be, before it is rented, we'd have to have an initial inspection before it is rented. And so that would probably be triggered through utilities. Maybe we wouldn't, change utilities or turn on utilities without an completed inspection. Some of it will be making sure the people that own rentals register with the city. How do we prove that? How do we enforce that? Those types of
And other
things.
cities have done it, we can figure it out, I guess, huh?
I would hope so.
Looking into it.
Yeah.
So let's start this process, and we'll figure out what we gotta do.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll figure out something.
Yep.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, moving on to discussions on filing vacant commission seats. City Manager Kendall Francis will make comments.
Well, Mayor and Commission, obviously, with the resignation of Justin Martin, that leaves a vacancy, and shared with you kind of my thoughts on it as we are approaching election time. We have just over a month now until the general election. That as our code does not require, that it be filled within a certain time limit, I think personally, I believe that it's best we let the election play out.
Which is
And
what, 4 weeks? Or
Yeah.
what is it?
2 meetings.
2 meetings, right.
Yeah, I think the 8th, is the 8th actually a meeting? 7th, is it the 7th?
No.
Seventh is election.
Okay.
And the
So-
8th is a meeting.
So just
Is that right?
just the next 2
more
meetings.
Yeah.
And then we would have a possibility of 3 new commissioners then. And then you can reevaluate at that time. Do you want to fill it then? Or
You said possibly the 3.
could possibly have there 3 currently up for election right now.
Plus the one,
Yeah, but that will not be filled by the
Okay.
election.
Well, that's right.
That is appointed.
that's right, okay.
But those will not actually be seated until January. So I guess another option would also be to wait until any new commissioners were seated and make the appointment at that time. But that's purely your guys' decision. Or the final option would be to start taking applications now and fill it at your leisure.
I think we should wait until after the election.
I think we should let the election play out, and then we will move forward from there.
Yep. That's
And
my,
if there
I agree
comes-
with that.
If there comes to we have a 5-person commission for a reason, in case there won't be any ties. With a 4-person commission, that may be a issue that arises, but we only have 2 meetings.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I think that between the 4 of us, we can come up with a resolution to address a tie if we need to.
I think that's correct.
Okay, let's do that.
My only real concern is that the next 2 meetings that everyone attends, because is there 3 meetings? 3? Okay.
3 meetings, okay.
Because 4 people is our quorum.
So what are you saying, appoint someone after,
Yep.
after
After
the
the
election?
election, after
And
the
then they'll
election.
have 2 months extra?
If we choose to appoint the person who was in the 4th place, then that would be, that person would
Start early.
have 2 extra months. And the thing is that the question then becomes, well, why, well, is it right giving them 2 extra months? Well, is it right giving us 8, 9, 10 extra months? Because the Kansas legislature sure thought it was. So
Yeah, and
I'm
fine
good with giving them 2 extra months.
Yep.
So do we want to set a filing, so we have to set a date for application deadline?
There are we're not taking applications until after, we'll address this issue again after the election.
Okay, I'm just wanting to get the. yeah,
Clarification.
get Clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, because we said 3 months, so we have 2 meetings in October. And then the 14th would be
That's right, so there is.
2
there's
meetings?
2,
I thought there
the
was
2
2
October
when I looked.
meetings. The first meeting in November is the 14th.
So
which is
that'll
the-
be after the.
After the election.
After the election.
We can figure it out.
Yeah, I think we can. Okay.
No, back to what you said about that, we all have to be here. We're all planning on being here, right? We don't know of
No plans
anything
on leaving.
different for
Unless
now.
something comes up.
So if one of us can't be here, what's the deal?
And then we don't have a quorum, we can't conduct business.
Right.
But you can still have the meeting.
You can have a meeting, but you can't act on
We've done it
anything
before.
official. You couldn't.
So if one of us couldn't be here, we'd have to reschedule the meeting maybe, or
I could call in.
We'll figure
you can
something
call
out.
in?
Yeah, figure something out.
Okay,
Yep.
you can call
Worst
in.
case.
It's not
Okay,
the
I
preferred
understand.
method, but-
I just want, just make it clear. Okay, good enough, thanks.
I will clarify, we do have an application and a process that we've used in the past. Do you guys want that information? would you like us to give that to you now so you can be looking at it in
You can
preparation?
forward it, email it to us, so we'll have it.
Yeah.
Why not?
A what?
But, it was an application that was already been established, for those wanting to, apply to be on.
Oh, well, I've seen
Fill
it.
fill the vacancy.
Yeah.
Said that we've
I
always
don't
done
think
it.
we
That's
need
how I
it.
got on.
Right, it's just like the board application,
Yeah.
it's
I'm not a-
nothing different. It's,
I'll go record, say I'm not really a fan of it, but it's something that the process gets, and I myself would love to find a way we have a special vote where the citizens actually get a vote, but that's just my opinion. I mean,
well, I think the citizens are getting a vote. They're getting a vote,
Well, this
November
time.
7th. And
The problem with that is, it costs to have an election.
yes.
Yeah.
And the thing is that on November 7th, the citizens of Coffeyville are going to choose their leaders. And with the resignation of the other commissioner, you very well, in my opinion, you're probably going to be choosing 4. So
Very good chance.
that's the way
But
that
not-
I'm
well,
taking it.
Yes, but that's
So
not always the case, is what I'm getting at, but
that's the way I'm leaning. And
that's the way
if-
I'm leaning too,
if
but.
things shake out, to where folks come in, second or third or whatever it is to get the 2-year terms, and those are some folks that are up here, then there's ways to handle that too.
Well,
It's
there's a
just-
lot of questions right now with amongst the citizens of Coffeyville, is how this is gonna work. And we got an email that pretty well said it, thank you, Kendall, that said, we're gonna get the 3 elected, or our option, it's our option, but we get the 3 elected, 1, 2, 3, and then we pick one. We
And-
pick who we want.
And it doesn't have to be any of those candidates,
Yeah.
it can be
Right.
whoever.
Right.
Right.
And that's the way the rules are, the law is, and so it's not number 4, just to make it clear with TV land out there, it's not number 4. Those new commissioners pick the one they want.
Those new commissioners won't be seated until January.
So, I
So
mean,
the
it
so the
will-
thing is,
Oh,
the
they're
thing.
not? Okay,
no,
that's
so
why
the-
I'm asking.
But
so the-
but there is the option to wait. I mean, it's
The-
completely up to you.
The thing is that those new commissioners won't be seated for January, so
Okay.
there's several more months
I've-
down the line.
I forgot that,
So
okay?
the
That's
thing
my last-
is that if, I'll go on the record right here, I'm gonna vote for, and I'm not just gonna pick some random person out of the community to sit on the commission. If you went up there and put your money down and put your heart and soul into a campaign or whatever it is you do, if you're the fourth person on that ballot, that's who I'm
Well,
gonna choose.
That's fair enough, okay?
I'll put it out there right now.
That's fair enough.
Whoever that is.
Okay, that's fair enough. Now, with that said, so now we're waiting until January,
No, we're waiting until.
until when?
Till after the election.
November.
November
After
7th, because
November
we'll know the
7th.
4th person November 8th, or
But-
the night of
and
November 7th.
I'll remind you, that 4th person can be one of you 3,
And we'll handle that too.
Right.
so.
Right.
So, and then when do they start their seat?
They would be seated immediately, so
Okay.
they would actually be seated.
Okay, I thought you said something
before-
about January.
Well, the ones who are elected in November will be seated in January.
Okay,
But the person who is appointed
Right.
will be seated immediately. So the person who got, if you're going to take the 4th place person,
yeah.
you're going to seat that person before you seated the 3 who were
Okay,
elected by
okay,
majority
right.
vote.
So that
So,
person would
and-
sit for 2 years and 2 months.
And,
And that's
And
what
the
you're
third
talking
person-
about.
and-
So it
Okay.
and how
becomes
to
very
hand-
interesting.
and how to
Yeah.
handle that, the very simple way how to handle that, and I'm just gonna use this as a scenario. If that man right there is a 4th place vote getter, you'll need to resign immediately and take the other, I'll just use names. You'll need to resign immediately and take over Commissioner Martin's position. And then the 1st place voter on that list will then immediately be assigned to
Oh,
his position.
we're
So
making
he'll get an
things pretty
extra.
difficult.
It's not very difficult. It's not
Do I
very
have to be mayor?
difficult at all. I can make up a flow chart on how this will go.
Get one made up, because I want to see it. I'm
Have to have a
confused.
program for that.
Okay? Okay, well, we'll figure this out.
Yeah.
We'll figure this out.
Moving on to the city manager's report.
I don't know if I had anything to top that. Mayor and Commissioners, just a few quick items. I will give you a brief update on both building projects. I would say they both continue to move very well. Emergency services continues to be ahead of schedule. We expect substantial completion about the 1st of December. We have scheduled a furniture delivery date for December 14th. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right one. And that'll give Crossland Construction an opportunity to work through their punch list on some of those things. And then we'll start, internally, we'll start developing a plan for how we move buildings and how that will go. As you've seen, the overhead doors been installed. They continue to work on that front apron and approach. The one thing I do want to let you know, KDOT has denied our request for a traffic signal there on 11th Street. The engineering study that they did said it was not warranted. So we are looking at what is Plan B. And in our discussions with Crossland, they've seen some instances where we install flashing lights, and probably some kind of audible system too. But we think that we could locate flashing lights on both sides of 11th, and they would be activated remotely, you know, when the trucks are rolling out onto the.
I'm just confused. So like a railroad?
No, we're talking.
Just like a yellow
we're thinking
blinking
more
light.
like the
Emergency vehicle.
like the
So it's an
police.
emergency, they'll pull out, and that light will go on, and that'll send people, that people are coming
That'll-
out and beware.
Ultimately, that light will go on first. Probably some kind of audible system we're thinking will alert, but it'll be like the light on top of a police car. It would start strobing and flashing. We can utilize the electricity that's on the pole on the south side and mount it there, so that you would have a visual warning that something's fixing to happen. But they cited the clearance of site clearance that they have, traffic counts, things like that it doesn't warrant that. So we will come up with Plan B, and we're figuring out how that.
Well, when the trucks pull, they're gonna pull out on the 11th, right?
Correct.
And they've got their lights on, their sirens going. People are gonna stop, I would think.
Well,
You'd be surprised.
probably, but you may have traffic.
differ.
Depends on, you have
You'd be
traffic
surprised, Jim.
moving 40 miles an hour. We want to take every precaution, so
Right.
these lights will serve as an early warning system that
Right.
something's
Well,
about
I
to
can see
happen.
where you need them, but
Yeah. Unfortunately, KDOT didn't see the logic in putting up stoplights. So we will come up with Plan B. As far as City Hall, things continue to move about like they have been. Electricians are working now, and we're waiting for some of that work to finish, and as soon as the drywall begins to be installed, which would be next, IT, Chris Felix and his staff will be looking at the low voltage systems being installed there. And we anticipate furniture delivery about the end of the Christmas week, depending on how holidays fall in there. We'll let you know that the police department's going to have a saturation patrol be Friday. It's Friday the 29th from 11 at night to 3 in the morning. It's part of the National Impaired Driving Mobilization Program, so it's not check lanes, but just extra patrols out watching for impaired driving. Our annual citywide cleanup scheduled for October 9th through the 15th, and here are the hours for the tree dump. Monday through Friday, the dump will be open 10 to 6. Saturday will be 8 to 4, and Sunday it'll be 12 to 4. And we are, like we've done the last 2 years, we're organizing volunteers to help those who need assistance removing their stuff. They can call the Red Cross, 251-1050, let them know that they will have items to be picked up, and then coordinating a group of volunteers who will go around on Saturday the 14th, the morning, to pick up those items and take them to the tree dump for those who are unable. So obviously, we're looking for volunteers who would want to help out. Takes a morning to get it done. Last night was our first candidate forum. It was a meet and greet, and that involved the candidates for obviously City Commission, but also USD 445 and Coffeyville Community College. There's 2 more scheduled that are, I believe, are only for the commission candidates. It'll be more of a question and answer type forum. Those will be October 9th at 6 o'clock at the Windsor Event Center, and then the following week, October 16th at 6 o'clock at the Windsor Event Center. So those will also be on KGGF radio. They'll be broadcast live on the radio. Last night's forum, if you missed it, it was videotaped and is available on the city's YouTube channel. You can go on there and watch it. And each candidate took time to talk about themselves and a little bit about their platforms and things, why they're choosing to run, those types of things. So if you didn't see it, I'd encourage you to go watch that. That brings up something in regards to signs. We're starting to see candidate signs appear across town. There's been some questions about where or where not, or where can they not be placed. The state statutes allow those signs to be placed anywhere, right away or not, as long as they're not in impairment to, visually impairing to drivers. So that they can be placed 45 days before the election and then have to be taken down after it. So 2 days, yes, correct, 2 days, within 2 days after the election. So like I said, we're starting to field some calls about that, and so everybody should know it's not city ordinance. The state legislature trumps city ordinance, so it's, right now they can be placed wherever.
And they have to be on private property, correct?
I believe that is correct.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, compared to like city property, is what you're
Yes.
saying. Yes.
They have to be on
Yeah.
privately owned property.
But they are allowed in the right of ways, where
Yes.
typically they're not.
So
Then-
last year, there was talk, they couldn't put them between the street and the sidewalk. You had to put them on the north side of the sidewalk or between the sidewalk and the house.
Right.
But now you can put them anywhere in there.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, just so everybody knows.
Yeah. Then I will let you know that the League of Municipalities is hosting a regional supper here in Coffeyville. It'll be October 12th. It'll be 6 o'clock, and it'll be right here in the Senior Activity Center. And if you want to attend, let us know, and we'll get you signed up for that. Our local legislators have been invited. I've talked to a couple of them who said they would be attending, but league staff will present a legislative update and kind of gear up for what to expect in the next legislative session. So be an opportunity to come talk to your local elected officials and
And when is that?
it's October 12th. I believe that is a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday, October 12th, 6 o'clock. Registration or doors open about 5:30, but the dinner will start about 6 o'clock.
Who all's invited? Is the public invited to that?
It is more geared towards the elected officials,
Okay,
city officials, city staff.
okay.
Can you send us an email on that to
Absolutely.
reminder?
Yep. But if you would like to attend, just let us know and I'll make sure and get you signed up for that.
Would it make sense to invite the people who are running for commissioner?
Yeah, it would, and I can do that.
I think that'd be appropriate.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
that's all I have. I entertain questions if you had any.
I have a clarification for the people, with this latest fire truck we got. The thought was that was going around was that fire truck was not going to be able to fit in the new fire station. I talked to you about it, and will you restate what it was said?
We had stated that a new ladder truck would be physically would not fit in the new station, or, excuse me, in the current station. And I think that at the time we were having that discussion, maybe that portion of that, it was a ladder truck. If we were to purchase a new ladder truck, would not physically fit in the current station that we have.
I just want to make that clarification.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No questions. I'll ask you a question. You're still speaking, right?
Sure.
Okay, well, I could wait till the next session, but how was your meeting at the Kansas League of Municipalities?
Excellent.
You want to, I heard your name mentioned there. You might tell the public a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I guess it was mentioned a couple of times,
Yeah.
probably.
It was.
I did present there. I presented to, about our succession plan that the city has developed. I was asked to talk about succession planning in regards to staff. And it was part of me and the mayor from Clearwater spoke. He's has a business history, and some of his career has been in HR and about succession planning. So we presented to other cities about the plan we developed and why and the things that we're doing here in Coffeyville. But then, I was also re-elected to serve on the league governing body for another 3-year term. So this would be my second 3-year term on the league governing body.
Okay, we had a nice speaker from Florida. And what I want to say about that, I'll say, the rest I want to say, I'll say in the next session. In the comments from commissioners and staff.
Okay. So no more questions? All right, this time, we'll open comments from the public. The public's free to comment on items not listed on the agenda. Please address comments to the commission as a body and be mindful of others who may also wish to speak by limiting your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor, city commissioners, staff. My name is John Hufford. I live here in Coffeyville, Kansas. And my reason for being here tonight, I'd like to invite you all to our first Coffeyville Veterans Day celebration, which will be on November 11th of this year. We're going to have a ceremony at the Court of Valor at 10 a.m. The VFW and American Legion, along with our National Guard and our city schools, will be involved in all these activities that we have. Followed by that, at about 11 o'clock, our city fireman is going to be serving food right over here by the Boys and Girls Club from 11 to around 12:30. At 1 o'clock, we're going to have a parade. We have a lot of people going to be in that, live bands and the like. I'm not going to go into all the details on it. You have to come and see. But I'm going to invite you all for that. After our parade, we're going to have some festivities over here at the Boys and Girls Club. Hopefully the weather's nice, so we can have it outside. We'll have some speakers. And I'd like for our mayor to speak. And if our commissioners would like to say anything, as well as our city manager, you're welcome to be there for that. But we'll have some special guest speakers, and we've got our parade permit in order. I'll be bringing the insurance in for the special event. Been working on this for about a year, already starting on next year's. This is the first time that I remember, and I was raised here, that Coffeyville's ever had a Veterans Day parade or an event. So I'd like for you to join us in that, if you would, and be a part of it. And trying to get all the area veterans involved so we can put them on trailers. I've already got some of the banks and credit unions going to pull a trailer, which we might have to borrow a trailer from someone here or ask for one for our band. We're going to have a band out here playing while they're serving food and stuff, a local band. And like I said, some area speakers, as well as giving away a prize to the 3 top school essay contest, which the VFW does every year. They present the student with the best essay for what does patriotism mean to me and democracy, and that student will be asked to recite that. Also, the Boy Scouts are involved. The National Guard is really involved in this. They're going to have some reenactments from Hiroshima, the staying of the flag. Combat vets will be there to do the fallen soldier. So we're going to have some events there, and it's kind of grown as we're going along here. So with that being said, I'd like to invite you all there. There's a car company or a new dealership that's already said any kind of vehicle we need. So whatever you all want to ride in, I'm going to hold them to that. And whether it be a Jeep or a convertible or however you want to go, hopefully it's not raining that day. I think it's going to be a wonderful 60-degree day, nice fall day, and we're going to have a wonderful time. So I do have a brochure here, or flyer I can give you, leave with y'all. If
Yeah.
you'd like one?
Absolutely.
That'd be
Mind
great.
if I come forward and
Yeah,
give it to you?
sure, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yes, thank you. I look forward to it.
Can we get this on the city's website?
It already is.
It's already there. Okay, well, I appreciate your time.
For it
Thank
on
you.
the city's website.
Y'all have any questions, or?
Well, I just want to mention, it sounds like an exciting thing, John. I
Yes.
got a chance to meet Samuel Niles back here. Well, I get them to come up right quick, and Caden, come on up, Caden. Oh, you're not Caden? Oh, I wrote Caden's name down. What's your name? Dawson. I met Dawson and Samuel this earlier today, came down the shop. I just want everybody to see them right quick. They're helping with this thing, and I know Samuel's working on his Eagle Scout, aren't you? And involved in these kind of things. These are the kind of kids we want to see in our community. I just wanted to bring them forward. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your work on that deal.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the commission?
Charles Weed, 207 West New. For the last few years, we've been demolishing a lot of the blighted houses. And it's come to my attention this last year, we're hardly doing anything about that. Is it because there's no funds left in that project, or is Tammy too busy doing something else, or what? You know, we went from, 10, 20, 5, 10, 15 every quarter.
Right.
And I think we've only had contract come in one time in the last 10 months, to get these houses out of the way, and they're part of our ugliness situation.
I'd say we're out of funds, but Kendall, can you answer that?
I can.
Okay.
We have, I believe, 7 that we've identified to do now between now and the end of the year. We have been waiting to see what the availability of funds were before we committed to any. And I think we've identified the first 7 that we could do. I'm not certain we have the funds to do all 7, but we're gonna be somewhere between 4 and 7 houses before the end of the year.
Did we not budget for that?
Yeah, we did.
How many did we budget for?
I don't know that we specifically budget for a number of houses.
How much did we budget for that particular line item?
Well, it actually encompasses lots of things besides, nuisance abatement and all those things. And I don't have that number off the top of my head.
We can get it for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Charles brings up a good question. We'll get it for the next meeting, Charles. We'll have a report for you next
But
meeting.
we have added additional funds to the budget for this year and next year. But it's not all just targeted at housing demo.
Right.
Well, you can get a little something put together for next meeting on that.
And how many have we done this year? That would be a good number to have too. Please.
Okay.
Any other comments from the public?
I think at one time we were gonna try to be what was it that he said?
Drive-through of,
McDonald's drive-through of demolition, housing demolition in Coffeyville or whatever it was. You weren't here for that, Kendall, but it was real funny at the time.
I'm assuming that it was.
Yeah. At this time, we'll take comments from the commissioners and staff. Looks like we have some.
Here comes Chuck.
Mayor and Commissioners, a few months ago, I brought you 3 options for potential CDBG grant street application. At that time, you directed us to move forward with 10th Street grant from Camden Street to Hall Street, similar to what we did on 9th Street. Since then, I've been
That was
working with.
Camden, I'm sorry, Charles, Camden. Chuck,
Camden to Hall
to
is
Hall,
what
okay.
we originally thought we would do. Since then, I've been working with our engineering consultant and Southeast Kansas Regional Planning Commission on all the grant requirements. Sidewalk replacement is not allowed in this, so, and if you remember, the 9th Street was actually 2 grants that we put together. So what we're looking at doing is the street surface milling and overlay, new curb and gutter, new driveway entrances, and handicap access ramps. Fire department assisted me by doing the required door-to-door income survey, which I very much appreciate. Based on the maximum grant that we could request for the number of people living in the area, the engineer's preliminary cost estimate, we were looking at approximately $360,000 grant funds and $780,000 city funds. But when we submitted the proposed project area map to the Department of Commerce for preliminary approval, it was rejected because they said it wasn't totally residential due to the location of the new emergency services building. We argued that that building's on 11th Street and Gillum Street, not on 10th Street. They came back and said the driveways come off of 10th Street, so that building benefits from the grant project, so they would not fund it because it has to be totally residential, although 9th Street wasn't. So anyway, we backed up, looked at our options, and determined that our best option would be to reduce the scope of the grant by removing the west end of the project from Gillum to Hall Street. By doing that, we can apply for approximately $330,000 grant with approximately $400,000 city funds. And then that would require approximately $380,000 less city funds than the original grant project that we were proposing. And then we could do the 2-block-long area from Gillum Street to Buckeye Street as a totally separate city-funded project with those funds that we didn't end up using. And that would have no CDBG strings attached, and the engineer estimates we could do that at $250,000. And then what we're proposing from Hall Street to Buckeye Street, that street's actually in pretty good condition, especially the curb and gutter, is just to come back next year when we do our surface seal project and seal that 1 block. So by making those changes, we can actually save about $100,000 over what we originally were proposing. But since I'm going to be bringing this to you at the next commission meeting, and that'll just be a few days before the grant application is due, I wanted to kind of update you so I wouldn't be dumping this on you and saying, now we need approval tonight.
I appreciate that, Chuck. This kind of thing we want to hear, so we have time to think before it's dumped on us.
Right, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might
I don't
have.
think there's any questions from me. I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So the money we spend, the 400,000 plus the 200, and where does that money come from?
That is money that's in our street capital improvement fund that's funded by the 2 half-cent sales taxes.
Okay, that's money that's coming in.
Yes.
Okay,
And we have a capital improvement
okay.
list of projects that, budget that we, that rolls over year to year. And we have money set aside for this project.
Okay.
So, one question real quick. Are we
Okay.
gonna go ahead and do the project whether or not we get the the grant or not?
I think what I would suggest is we do the Gillum Street to Buckeye Street, whether we get the grant or not. And in fact, I would propose to go ahead and move ahead with the engineering design and then try to fit it in where it works with the construction and the grand opening and fire trucks and police truck cars.
I think that's a good idea.
That's going to be difficult to find when is the right time, because what we're looking at doing is the Gillum Street intersection going completely concrete with wider radiuses because it's kind of offset. So by doing that, it'll be easier for the trucks. And then taking that concrete past those driveways and then just do asphalt mill and overlay. And that block, which is almost 2 blocks long, doesn't have curb and gutter now, and what we're proposing won't include curb and gutter. It'll still be ditches, but what we are proposing is to mill and overlay the street surface and do new driveway entrances with all new tubes and clean up all of the ditches
That'd be
so the
excellent.
water flows, and do new driveway entrances over those tubes.
Yeah.
And that'll stop a lot of the gravel from coming out into the street from the driveways too.
I'd
Yeah, I
like
think we
that.
should
like
move forward with
idea.
that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Comments from commission?
I real quickly want to say I'm glad to see that Lake Street, I believe it was, outside the stockyards was done. That's been bumpy for years. I drove down just the other day, and it was smooth as I've ever seen it. So I want to say thank you for doing that street down there.
I was just report that I attended the Kansas League of Municipalities for one day. Pretty good little deal. I think all commissioners should try to get to it. Future ones, I guess I should say. But it ought to be kind of a guideline, and it's going to be, I wish I had been encouraged to go. I think and I hadn't been. I'd been offered it, but I didn't know what it was, and I don't remember what happened the past year or so, but pretty good training. I could only attend one day because I had to work the other day on a Monday, went on a Sunday, but pretty interesting. It's like any conference, you hear from people that are involved in city stuff or the industry or the world that you're living in, and that would have been the city. It was a pretty interesting deal. How many days was that, Kendall? Total it was
3, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Well, Saturday was basically just for
Actually, it starts Friday. Friday is for city attorneys. They have a session just for city attorneys on Friday. Saturday is more training, the Municipal Training Institute, which is geared more towards
Right.
staff.
Right.
Takes up the majority of the
Right.
afternoon. We have a league governing body meeting. So the meat of everything is Sunday
Right.
into Monday with the
Right.
business meeting.
So like a
concluding it.
commissioner would go on those 2 days, not
Sunday and
the
Monday.
4 days. But anyway, I just made that quick little something. That's all I had.
Okay. Anyone else from the commission?
I have a couple. I just have one question. I probably should have asked it earlier. My question is where are we at on the Safe Routes to School grant and the announcement time and date?
Think it's November is when we expect, when they tell us that that's when they expect to make the announcement. I know they were here site visit last month, was it?
It's probably been a couple.
Yeah, it probably has been now. They came and did a site, part of the application process. They'll come and actually do a site visit and just in conversation, and there's nothing, we're not holding them to anything. They indicated we had a strong application. So we're just kind of in the waiting pattern. I would say between now and mid-November, they'll make those announcements.
Okay. One other thing I'd like to say is we had the commission actually the candidate meet and greet last night. I know that there was the folks from the USD 445, the College School Board, and of course the folks running for the Coffeyville City Commission. I'd like to say that I was the last one that got to speak, so I got to listen to everybody's presentation. I want to say that I was very impressed with everybody who spoke last night, and I was very thankful that all these people, the citizens, showed up to listen to everyone. I think we got some excellent candidates running on every board, from USD 445 to the CCC board and the Coffeyville City Commission. I think that any one of those people would be a good representative for the people of Coffeyville. I'm proud to say that we have an excellent crop of folks that have stepped forward to try to serve their community, and I appreciate them. Thank you.
Think your odds are pretty good that you can get reelected?
I don't know. I'm thinking that, I'm thinking we.
I'll leave it alone.
I just like to reiterate what Chris said, you know, that it was a very good, it was a good event. Chamber put on Candy did a great job organizing, getting everyone here, had a great turnout. I mean, most of the seats were full, you know, as we looked around. So again, I reiterate everything Chris just said. That was a very good comment, and it was a good event.
I'll answer your question. I think I got a 1 in 8 chance.
Okay.
Maybe 1 in 10.
I'll plead the fifth, I guess they call it. Just so the public can know, you can see that again online, okay? Good enough.
Any other questions, comments from the, okay. This time, we'll move to executive session, or move to recess to executive session to discuss the potential purchase of certain retail estate within the city limits pursuant to the acquisition of real property exception, to reconvene in the commission room at we'll start at 8:55 for 10 minutes. Yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.